Do whatever we want, wherever we want it. Hasan, what do you think when they say that Israel has not been directly involved in military conflict in Yemen? Israel and Yemen do not share direct geopolitical or military hostilities. That I say that is completely and utterly wrong, because who did the genocide in Yemen? Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is aligned with Israel in the Middle East. And also, Saudi Arabia is able to do this alongside the United States of America as an American proxy, who is, what is Israel? But a state, an important state of the United States of America. So the idea that the idea that Israel and Houthis have nothing, like they have no hostilities, is completely incorrect. Every country in the region sees Israel as a destabilizing force, understandably so, and an expression of American dominance, also understandably so. I heard Tarek brought his own monitor because you tried to set him up with 120 hertz. How dare you? Yeah, I'm trying to kneecap him. Anyway, that suit is slick. You got a date tonight? Yes, with your mom. Got him. Anyway, here we can watch a video on explaining the history of the Houthis by Middle East Eye, if you would like. A lot of the information is going to, no matter what, because this is like a regional actor that we are not aligned with, a lot of the information is going to be full of inaccuracies, I would say. And they're not overwhelmingly good guys by any means. But when you have a group of individuals that are overtly bad, you sometimes have bad guys as well look like the good guys. And what I mean by that is, like, Iran is a great example of this. I talked about this quite extensively yesterday. The same dynamic always plays itself out in every country that the United States is interested in. Okay? You can always find a group of individuals that are going to say, no, actually, we want America to come and blow up our country. It's awesome. Right? We love that. Please, America, please. Bro, please glass Tehran, bro. America, we are waiting for you to blow up Tehran. You are the best. Restore the Shah, please. Is something that you hear from diaspora Iranians. Is something that you hear from the Shah writers, okay? But, like, it's ridiculous, okay? It's ridiculous. Ridiculous take. Many Iranians are not exactly fond of the current the Iranian government, okay? They're not. They understand it to be reactionary. They understand it to be repressive. They understand it to be authoritarian, oftentimes brutal. But if you are to make a choice, if you do not leave Iran to its own devices, these people are never going to be able to find the momentum to restore some semblance of a democratic process, or basically change the political dynamic in their own country, because they're too busy trying to survive under crippling sanctions. America almost always makes the situation worse. The overwhelming majority of the population will always side, in the Middle East at least, will always side with whoever is their own citizens, whoever is seemingly interested in at least having autonomy over an American puppet. That's it. And the example I used was the coup that occurred in Turkey. As someone who is not fond of the Erdogan regime, as someone who has very real concerns about going back to Turkey as a consequence of the things that are written, the things that I've said about Recep Tayyip Erdogan, okay? I am no fan of Recep Tayyip Erdogan, but I do, in a situation where I have to compare or I have to pick a side between him and the American puppet Fethullah Gülen, I am going to go with Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And many Turks did the exact same thing in the aftermath of this coup. Okay? That's it. That's the point. Absolutely nobody wants Fethullah Gülen. Enough people want Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And all you're doing when you try to implement a coup is solidify Erdogan's position amongst the population. And that's precisely what happened. Recep Tayyip Erdogan had martial law implemented in the country. And then there was a referendum. And he basically added at least another 15 years to his reign by changing the structure from a parliamentary structure to a presidential one with a referendum, meaning 50% plus voted to change the constitution of Turkey. That could not have happened without Fethullah Gülen's coup d'etat. Fethullah Gülen is a CIA asset. That's it. That ruined Turkey further. Not allegedly. Fethullah Gülen is a direct CIA asset, 100%. Amına kodumun oğlu ya, anlattın, sinirlendim yine abi. So you have to remember, you have to remember how this stuff is perceived in the population that it impacts, okay? And not from the lens of American politics, okay? That's what's really sad about the situation, is that I, as an American political commentator, cannot get a broader, supposedly progressive American audience to listen to what I have to say about this issue, because many in the progressive American audience would much rather believe in lullabies, believe in lies being told by mainstream media, by the State Department, that no, these guys are welcoming us as liberators. And the reality is they hear that from a liberal perspective on MSNBC and CNN, just like the reactionaries hear that from a reactionary perspective on Fox News. But it's still the same coin. It's two sides of the same shit coin. And nobody wants to listen to the actual people on the ground. It's very strange. So remember that when you think about Iran. Remember that when you think about the Houthis or in Yemen. Remember that when you think about any country that America involves itself in.
This is the slogan of the Houthi movement, a small rebel army who now rule over 70% of Yemenis and are fighting a bitter war against Saudi Arabia and its allies. But how did...
Your U.S. politics are 3 billion worlds worse than Erdogan or anyone like him? I mean, brother, if you think that Erdogan is not a puppet to American and Western interests, I don't know what to tell you. You are just completely oblivious. You think... Anyway, whatever. Let's not even get into that. Part of the reason why I criticize Recep Tayyip Erdogan regularly is because he is an American puppet.
Did a group from the mountains in Yemen's far north take control? And what exactly do they want?
Can you please show evidence that he's a CIA puppet? Gülen sounds interesting. Okay, this has to be a Langley dude, right? I'm assuming this dude is logging on from Virginia, right? There's... Can you please show evidence that he's a CIA puppet to Fethullah Gülen? Okay. Look up where he lives. Kesin FETÖ'cü yok abi. FETÖ'cü değil bu. Amerikalı bu. Bence. Ondan dedim. Bunda Amerikan ajanı böyle bana diyor ki, Amerikan ajanı geliyor diyor ki, ne bu Fethullah Gülen kim ya? Çok hoşuma gitti aslında. Biraz anlatsana bana falan diyor. Ne demek CIA falan diyorsun Fethullah Gülen'le, ama hiç bence öyle değil herhalde falan. Demesinin sebebi Türk olduğu için değil. Bu %100 Türk FETÖ'cü değil, Amerikan FETÖ'cüsü. Just interested. ... Dude, relax. We don't know everything about everything. No, I know. I'm just making a joke about you being about you posting from Langley. Gulen sponsor for his residentship application was the CIA chief for the Middle East. What other proof do they need? Yeah. Oh, this is what I was gonna say. This is the aftermath of the bombing campaign in Yemen. Yeah. Yeni term Amerikan FETÖ'cüsü. Oğlum Amerikalıların hepsi FETÖ'cü ki. Bilmiyorlar ki. Amerikalıların büyük çoğunluğu Amerika ne diyorsa onu dinliyorlar abi. Ya bu şey gibi. Nasıl AKP'ciler var ya Türkiye'de salak. Anlamıyorlar geri zekalılar. Amerikalıların büyük çoğunluğu da aynen AKP'ci gibi aslında yani. Amerika'nın internasyonel politikasına baktığın zaman Amerika'nın büyük çoğunluğunun var ya AKP'cilerin hiçbir farkı yok yani. Ne duyuyorlarsa medyada diyorlar ki bu doğru abi. Bunu demeye çalışıyorum zaten. They're saying La Nubali, which literally means we don't care, we don't care. If Erdogan was already a puppet, why did we try to coup him? Just because one person is a puppet doesn't mean that you can't have a better puppet on board. What are you talking about? The problem with Erdogan was that even though he is consistently worked with Western interests at the end of the day, he's still a relatively destabilizing force because he's not as willing. And he is also oftentimes willing to say things that shake up that region regularly. He's very good at being unpredictable and working with both sides of every conflict. In Ukraine, he's supplying Ukraine with Bayraktar, UAWs, the drones, but then also simultaneously cutting energy deals with Russia. He's getting Russian anti-air defense systems while also simultaneously trying to get a contract for F-35s. Like, all of this stuff is instability for America. Why wouldn't you, if you're America and you have another religious cleric that lives in the fucking Poconos that has been able to, because they were raised side by side, Fethullah Gulen and Recep Tayyip Erdogan were basically under the same religious sect, like the same umbrella of like some level of like Islamist fundamentalism. Erdogan was seen as a more Western-facing Islamist fundamentalist early on, whereas like Fethullah Gulen was seen as a more he was more of a fundamentalist from the Turkish perspective, at least. But they grew side by side. They were able to, Fethullah Gulen was able to basically set up a parallel government. This is real, okay? Over the course of the many years that the Erdogan regime was in place, all the way from police forces to the military like administrations, the generals, to the court system. Like, there was an entirely separate Fethullah Gulen adjacent, like it's like a cult, okay? There's an entirely separate parallel government. So when you see the instability, that Erdogan is causing, then yeah, you will turn around and try to activate your own personal guy who is going to be much better for you. Erdogan is also controllable by Western forces. How is Erdogan controllable? Let me explain to you. He's incredibly corrupt. That's it. Anytime Erdogan speaks out of turn, America goes, all right, the Southern District of New York is going to open up a new case against the Erdogan family. And then, boom, he steps in line immediately. Okay? That's it. That's it. Erdogan is profoundly corrupt. And for that reason, he's endlessly controllable by Western interests. So anytime he's like getting a little too volatile for America's interests, they just go, all right, new court case opened up to one of your sons and their illicit dealings. Okay? Boom. It's over. What the hell is this? Yeah, the coup was also a great excuse for him to demolish the remaining democracy and opposition. Yes, Ergenekon was already in place, if I remember correctly, before the coup. Like there was already like a deep state battle in Turkey, and then the coup happened, and then it's a wrap. He had the broadest dictate, the broadest mandate. He could rule with martial law. And many Turks were not going to turn around and say, fuck no, when they saw it happen. They experienced it. The coup was also a great excuse for him to demolish the remaining democracy and opposition. The coup worked like a divine intervention for him to gain unchecked power. Exactly. So thank you to the United States of America once again. Dikkat et, Erdoğan Türkiye'ye sokmaz bu daha seni. Kardeş ben bunu yıllardır söylüyorum. Bu nedenden dolayı zaten anlatmaya çalışıyorum Amerikalılara. Erdoğan'ı sevmememe rağmen Fethullah Gülen'den daha iyi yine de yani. Bunu anlatmaya çalışıyorum işte. Bunu anlatmaya çalışıyorum Amerikalılara. Bu. Neden bu? Benim girme ihtimalim yok zaten. Bana girer. Silivri soğuktur. Anyway, let's continue. Yemen's Houthis explain.
The Houthis emerged in Yemen's northwestern Sada province in the 1990s, established by former MP and religious scholar Hussein al-Houthi. Al-Houthi said he wanted to protect and revive Zaydi Islam, a sect of Shiism that makes up 35%
34 MKD50, thank you for the 50 gifted subs.
of Yemen's population. Zaydis have a long and powerful history in Yemen and had ruled large parts of the country under an imamate since the year 897. When a civil war broke out in North Yemen in 1962, the last imam was overthrown. The Houthis say that this, along with the ensuing government policies, left many Zaydis feeling increasingly disenfranchised. When al-Houthi emerged, he began to rail against the influence of US imperialism and Saudi Salafism on Yemen's rulers, in particular on President Ali Abdullah Saleh, who himself was a Republican Zaydi. Al-Houthi's ideas appealed to many, but not all Zaydis supported him. His opponents accused him of pro-Iran links and a desire to reinstate the imamate, a theocratic system of rule led by a religious leader who must be a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad.
لسنا مستعدين أن نرى أنفسنا جنودا لأمريكا. لسنا مستعدين أن نرى اليهود يعبثون في البلاد الإسلامية هنا وهنا فنسكت. وثقوا لأنهم لم يسمعوا أحد يتكلم.
The Houthis began gathering supporters and in 2004 launched an armed rebellion against Saleh after he attempted to arrest Hussein al-Houthi. A few months later, al-Houthi was killed by Yemeni police, but his death only fueled what would become 6 years of fighting, known as the Sada Wars. By 2009, the Houthi insurgency had spread beyond Sada province and into Saudi territory, where a large number of Saudi's Shia population lived.
Yikes on the Jew statement there. Yes, brother. There is a lot of anti-Semitic sentiment. Yeah, like that much is 100%, 100 P. This is like looking at Yes, they are very anti-Semitic. This is like looking at, I mean, part of their credo is literally curse the Jews. Like they say Islam will prevail, and curse the Jews is like right before that. So that's not what we're talking about here in this situation. What do you mean? Calls to genocide are yikes? That's nuclear grade yikes. Yeah. It's like, it's the same principle behind Hamas being like, oh my God, I can't believe these Hamas guys, like some of them are very fundamentalist. And it's like, yeah, they are. I know. That doesn't mean they deserve to be wiped out. Okay. From their perspective, though, they only know Israel. Like that's they only know Israel and America, basically. Yeah, they are still fighting wars, guys. Okay, anyway, let's continue.
Saudi intervened, pushing the Houthis back and helping Yemen's government regain control of its north. When the Arab Spring uprising spread to Yemen in 2011, the Houthis joined the protest movement that ultimately forced Saleh to step down after a 33-year rule. But Saleh didn't
I have the same glasses
quietly,
as him.
and
It's
his
crazy.
fight with his replacement, Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi, would destabilize the country, leading to an economic crisis in what was already the region's poorest country. The Houthis saw an opportunity and re-emerged, retaking control in parts of the north. Then, in an unexpected move, they allied with their former enemy Saleh.
Honestly, there's a really important and meaningful material distinction between a marginalized Middle Eastern people's hatred of Judaism as it relates to the state of Israel versus Nazis in the West, and liberals are absolutely allergic to that reality. I mean, it's a distinction, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. I guess it matters as it pertains to like Israel and its actions in the region, because like if Israel's actions in the region cease to be inherently hostile, the amount of people who demonstrate anti-Semitic tendencies is going to diminish, because it's not like a spiritual anti-Semitism that is out of nowhere claiming that like Jews are responsible for all of their fucking problems by virtue of being Jewish. But yes, there's still very real anti-Semitism in the region, and that is important to recognize as well. It's just funny to be like, well, they're being anti-Semitic, sweetie, as it pertains to like, what their actions have been in the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. Can you explain how anti-Semitism looks like in Turkey, not anti-Zionism? I mean, anti-Semitism in Turkey, I guess, is, I don't know. I didn't like grow up seeing that at all. It was not even a concept that I had ever thought about. Like, it's not, I would say that it's not as broadly popular, I guess, but there is like cultural anti-Semitism that's like deeply embedded. Like, there's an old school Turkish saying, okay? There's an old school Turkish saying, bundan bir Yahudi kızı ölmüş, which means a small Jewish girl died from this, which is supposed to say like, it's not a, like you say that when you get like a little boo-boo, like, and that is like grossly anti-Semitic thing to say. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that before, the Turks in the chat. And it's like a regional thing, I suspect. But that is very anti-Semitic. And I had never even thought about that as being anti-Semitic before. I'm a Turk and I've never heard of any of those sayings you always mention. Oh, yeah, ilk defa duydum. Many Turks have never even heard of it before. Pretty sure the Quran says that Muslims should respect Jews and Christians as brothers or something like that. The hatred isn't from religion. Yeah, I mean, the understanding of like other Abrahamic religions is that, does that mean that's a small injury or a big one? No, it means it's a small injury. I think it is imply lying. Dude, you picked it up immediately. Does it imply lying about an injury, aka Holocaust reference? I think so. But like, I think I would say that like calling someone, I think like it's not about like the anger in Turkey is more complicated. It's not about like Jewish people. It's not anti-Semitic tendencies towards Jewish people, other than, you know, when stuff pops off with Israel, of course, then it definitely escalates, just like it does in America. But it's more so about like Armenians. There's a lot of stuff that we say about Greek people, you know what I mean? Like there's also stuff about Kurdish people as well, but like mostly Greek and Armenians, I would say. Like the idea that like we'll push you into the sea, right? Like that's like very that's like a very common concept for Turks. Well, Iranians always rip on Turks, yeah. But there's Turkic people in Iran too, right? And I thought that was like Torque or something. Like I thought that was what it was about. Like Iranians regard Turkic Iranians as the Polish people of Iran, basically. In Turkey, we have our own version of that. They're from the Black Sea region. Karadeniz. Those Turks we regard as the Polish people of Turkey. Yeah, there's a huge Aussie community. I think and the insanely complicated racism. Yes. Yeah, like in Turkey, we regard those from the Karadeniz region, Black Sea, as like the Poles of Turkey. They're dumb and they have big noses. That's the whole point. And the big nose thing is not like anti-Semitic, by the way. The big nose is a signifier that you're from Karadeniz. Like it just means that you're a guy from the Black Sea region and you have a massive hook nose. But they're not but that's not like Jewish at all. There has nothing to do with Judaism or Jewish people or anti-Semitism in general. It's just like it's entirely related to regional like regional memes, I guess. Oh, there's also another thing. Given the Ottoman Empire's like safe haven status for Jews, there's plenty of Jewish people in Turkey as well, and plenty of Jewish people. Like there's a lot of Jewish people in Istanbul, and also beyond that, there is also the anger that a lot of Turks weirdly feel towards Arabs because they see both Palestinians and Arabs across the board in the MENA region as like traitors to the Ottoman Empire because they align with England and France in fighting against the Ottoman Empire at its weakest point. So then there's like a group of individuals in Turkey that will literally regard, because there's a lot of anti-Arab sentiment in Turkey historically and also especially now with a massive amount of refugees that came into Turkey, Arab refugees that came into Turkey with Erdogan. So then you have this other, you have this mentality that like the Palestinians backstabbed the Ottoman Empire and that the Palestinians backstabbed the Ottoman Empire. They're dogs. They're Arab anyway. We don't like Arabs. We hate being compared to Arabs. And therefore, we align with Israel. And we think Israel's doing the great thing, the right thing. So, yeah. So, yeah, the idea that like the Ottoman Empire could have won if the Arabs didn't betray the empire. The Ottoman Empire. Why are we supporting them and destroying our relationship to the West? A pretty common sentiment. That too. So yeah, you know, it's definitely more complex than you would think. It's just like it's hard to describe. It's hard to describe, especially to an American population. I don't know how to do a good job, a decent enough job explaining it, but there's many different layers to it because there's a lot of history to it. Anyway. So, Let's continue.
And stormed the capital Sana'a in September 2014. With the former...
Let's dial it back a little bit too. Yeah, Middle Eastern conflict with Jews is totally not the same as European Nazism. Yeah, of course. Like, it's not. Americans won't understand living next to 18 countries you were at war with at some point in history. Yeah. My favorite Turkish saying is Arabada beş, evde 15. That's my life motto. That's crazy. Hoşuma giderse bendensin miydi? Why do you know that? Are you Turkish? I assume this guy is fucking Turkish, right? There's no way. Balkan baby. Oh my God. Why do you know? That's like an insane. That's an insane meme from like. Arabada beş, evde 15 means 5 times in the car, but 15 times in the house. Which is like about sex, about fucking, I think. And it's like it's about fucking, pompa, which means pump. And it's, oh my God. No, don't Google that. Okay, don't Google that. Also, top of the hour ad break. All right, we're moving away from that. All right, we're moving on from that and never talking about this again. Do not Google Ankara Namık. Okay? All right, that's a name I haven't heard in a very long time. That is where that Arabada beş, evde 15 meme comes from. And we're going to move on. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. We're moving on to the 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, you can subscribe 34 MKD 50 with another 50 big ones. God damn. Allowing with another 50 again. 100 big ones. Allowing 100 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour.
In what was already the region's poorest country. The Houthis saw an opportunity and re-emerged, retaking control in parts of the north.
The more we talk about Turkish shit, the more 34 MKD 50 goes crazy, bro.
Then, in an unexpected move, they allied with their former enemy Saleh and stormed the capital Sana'a in September 2014. With the former president's system of patronage and corruption and his links within Yemen's divided army, the Houthis were met with little resistance.
أما هذه الخطوة التاريخية الحكيمة الرشيدة الصحيحة السليمة المسؤولة فهي لمصلحة هذا البلد لأن من مصلحة هذا البلد.
Damn, bro, that never happens. That's so crazy. I can't think of a single other instance where, like, I don't know, like a more reactionary Shia force was able to overtake and completely take control over, I don't know, another like regional government as a consequence of interference and instability. That's never happened, right? I mean, certainly. A country that we now, I mean, every time we talk about Yemen, we literally say the Iranian proxies of the Houthis. So, first time.
A new government was formed in Sana'a, and Houthi forces continued to expand their control rapidly, south to Ib province and west to Hodeidah. President Hadi fled the country and sought backup from Saudi Arabia, who was beginning to grow concerned about a Houthi re-emergence and what it could mean for Iran's influence on its...
By the way, this is why they say, like, the regional actors, the Gulf nations hate... The Gulf nations absolutely hate Shias more than anything else, okay? Like, you might say, like, oh, these guys are anti-Semitic, whatever, yada, yada. No. Okay? If Israel was a Shia nation, it would have been wiped out already, is the common meme.
Border. In March 2015, a coalition led by Saudi and the UAE...
Yes, absolutely more than Israel. We're talking about the regional leaders in general.
Stepped in and launched a campaign of heavy bombings across Houthi strongholds.
To save Yemen from a takeover by a radical militant group, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and its GCC allies, as well as its allies outside the GCC, have made a decision to respond to the legitimate request by the legitimate president of Yemen and to provide the assistance needed.
The intervention was spearheaded by Mohammed bin Salman, then Saudi's Minister of Defense, and dubbed Operation Decisive Storm. As the name suggests,
it was so decisive, and it definitely was a storm.
It was intended to be short and swift, reinstating Yemen's government in Sana'a and highlighting Salman's leadership potential ahead of his bid for Crown Prince.
By the way, I mean, you guys know who our allies are in this, right? You know who our allies are in this, right? Chat, remember, when a liberal tries to tell you, okay, like, oh, the Houthis are doing this, they're doing that, they're reactionary, blah, blah, blah. It's like, remember, okay, who's our pony? Which pony are we backing in this conflict? What are their personal politics like? Can you explain that to me, please? Okay? Because, like, they never want to talk about that, okay? They never, ever, like, they're just like, no, you don't understand. Like, we're doing this in a woke way. The hilarity now is that Saudi Arabia just expressed deep concern about strikes on Yemen because they're worried about ruining the peace process of the Houthi attacks on their country starting again. Exactly. Which, you know, as another way to, I guess, limit the supply of oil. So, like, America backing Israel full tilt is literally ruining everything. Okay? Everything. It's fucking up its own bag, man. It's just so stupid. There is no discernible reason, which is why, and I keep driving home this point, and I hope you guys understand, this is precisely the reason why there is, for the first time at least that I've seen, so much instability within the State Department. You rarely ever, with the exception of leaks and like brave whistleblowers actually coming out and speaking out against American imperialism and American actions, you never see this level of like high-profile State Department people either anonymously leaking information to the media or directly coming out and being like, I'm resigning. Okay? It is genuinely wild. Not even under Trump did we see this level of anger. Because that's the most important part. America's foreign policy is united. It's bipartisan because guess what? It's always done at the behest of American corporations. It's always done for the American bottom line. So I've never actually seen a situation where like there's this level of instability in the American State Department where you have people going to the media and being like, Israel has no plan of action. What the hell's going on here? Why are we aligning with them this way? I'm telling you, this isn't just about a moral position. There are certainly younger people that are, you know, morally against, even though they ironically work at the State Department or whatever. There might be young people that are against Israel's genocidal actions, certainly. Okay? But for the most part, like the weapons dealer of the American State Department is not taking a moral stance against Israel. Okay? I refuse to believe that. That guy is mad because the situation is untenable and he sees the writing on the wall. He recognizes that America's unconditional support of Israel is going to cause instability and harm America's soft power globally. Something that the Biden administration promised it was going to restore. Do you understand? It's also additionally ironic because Biden is doing this for two allies that despise him. XY Geek is completely correct in this matter. It is in the best interest of Israel and Saudi Arabia to tank Biden's campaign, which they have openly stated they are interested in doing. They openly stated this. The Netanyahu administration does not like Biden, even though Biden is a rugged, diehard Zionist who has been in support of Israel every single time. When Republican presidents have no to Israel, Biden has said, fuck you. When Democratic presidents have criticized Israel, Biden has said, fuck you. Unconditionally in support of Israel, and yet Netanyahu does not return the favor. Okay? They hate him, and it is in their best interest to ensure that he is no longer the president. Same with MBS. Both of these guys like Donald Trump a lot more. Okay? So Joe Biden is getting cucked in the funniest ways possible in this circumstance, and it's incredibly interesting seeing like the DNC mouthpieces on Twitter champion what Biden is saying and doing, even though it hurts Biden. This is why, beyond the moral argument, the pragmatic argument also supports reining Israel in. And yet, the Democratic Party mouthpieces on liberal Twitter that jerk off to images of aircraft carriers and whatnot cannot put it in their brains. They cannot comprehend a world where, like, you know, you got to pull back a little bit. This is hurting you. Oh, so stupid.
But the campaign failed to oust the Houthis, who strengthened their grip on power and continued to expand into government-held territories. A number of UN-led peace talks between both sides were attempted, including ceasefires and prisoner exchanges, but ultimately failed at stopping the conflict. Meanwhile, the humanitarian situation in Yemen became desperate, pushing the already impoverished people to the brink of famine. Human rights organizations accused both the Houthis and the Saudi-led coalition of crimes against humanity, including the targeting of civilian areas, hospitals, and schools. In December 2017, Ali Abdullah Saleh formally broke ties with the rebels in a televised speech.
For the record, for those who don't know, the Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International have done this exact same thing for the Israel and Hamas sides as well. So that's something to also remember always. Like, you don't really hear about it that much because, like, Israel's obviously responsible for the, you know, majority of the violence, the overwhelming majority of the violence. But they still have smoke for Hamas as well. They regularly condemn Hamas too. And it's the same principle here as well.
And announced he was open to dialogue with the Saudi-led coalition.
العظيم في كل المحافظات في كل المديريات في كل العزل في كل الأحياء في كل مكان
and everywhere in Yemen to rise as one man to defend the revolution,
للدفاع عن الثورة والجمهورية,
the republic, unity and freedom against the Houthis.
The Houthis accused Saleh of treachery. 2 days later, the man who was once deemed invincible and survived numerous assassination attempts was killed by a Houthi sniper in Sana'a. The group began to root out all opposition in areas under their control, accused of detaining and torturing journalists, academics, students, and minorities, as well as recruiting child soldiers. Meanwhile, they continued to expand their territory, launching a series of reprisal attacks into Saudi Arabia. On the 14th of September 2019, Saudi's Aramco oil facilities were hit by drone strikes, shutting down 2 of its main facilities and taking out 5% of the global oil supply. The Houthis claimed the strike, citing it as a victory.
That's the most important part, is that they just rip with Iranian weapons. They rip through Saudi oil refineries and facilities. And they do it all the time. Like, the way they are dishing it out, the way they make a promise and dish it out towards Israel, they do the exact same thing to Saudi, or they were doing the exact same thing to Saudi Arabia. Funnily enough, this attack was done by Iran law. The Houthis claimed it to cover them. Well, I don't know if that was, I don't know if it's a Iranian attack or Houthi attack. Regardless, it's just, no matter what happens, like, they are directly willing and able to take it to the coffers, which is the most important part. Like, they 100% recognize, like, how to wage this kind of war. Once you start impacting dollars, then the situation becomes a problem. Killing soldiers is nothing, okay? Killing your enemy's soldiers is nothing. It's nothing. Your enemy will always have more soldiers, okay? Sure, you'll demoralize them a little bit, maybe, but it doesn't matter. Soldiers are expendable, okay? Soldiers are replaceable. But when you actually go after the bottom line, then you're really arriving at a problem. Then you've really created a problem.
Victory against their adversary. But Saudi and the US blamed Iran, accusing them of using the Houthis as cover to launch their...
It's also hard because so Saudi Arabia has an interest in whitewashing and sports washing. So when they're doing Formula One weekend, a massive deal for Saudi Arabia's like way of trying to reach out to the Western world and show a different face. And you know, there's explosions during Formula One weekend. All of a sudden, everyone in the Western world is reminded, oh crap, these guys are actually still waging war. That's a huge deal. That's part of the reason why Saudi Arabia doesn't want to reignite a war with the Houthis at all, specifically because, you know, they got the UFC, you know what I mean? Like, they got Formula One, they got the UFC, they got their golf tournaments and shit. So when you're having a golf tournament and the Houthis are dropping drone strikes on you know, oil refineries and shit, all of a sudden, nobody's going to want to come to the golf tournament. Protect Cristiano Ronaldo is what the Western world is going to say. So, yeah.
Own attacks on the Gulf. Iran denied playing a role in the attack, as well as repeated accusations that it funded and armed the Shia rebels since the beginning of the war. 6 years on, the Houthis look closer than ever to seizing total control of Yemen, confident they can hold out longer than the Saudis and the Yemeni government. Nearly 6 decades.
Yeah, man, it's always the case. Dude, listen. Once you've lost control of the public, it doesn't matter if you're a figurehead. If you are seen as someone who is being led by an outside party, in which case, you know, Saudi Arabia, which is, of course, as everybody correctly understands, is a proxy for America, okay? It's over. It's Jover. These guys are tunneled in because they live there. And the more they blow it up from the outside, the more they're going to get galvanized.
It's after the Imam.
Odd how Middle East and I skipped 5 years involved in the most brutal blockade in modern